major international study suggests that marriage is really good for you and your mental health. It reduces the risk of depression and anxiety and other disorders, especially if you are male. It is my pleasure to welcome our resident couples counselor, sex therapist, Dr. David McKenzie, back to the broadcast to tell us more. So, marriage is a good thing.
It's a very good thing, yeah. Men can handle finances better and health issues better when they're married. It prevents women from substance abuse. Often when a marriage breaks up through death or separation, a man will be more prone to depression. Women tend to be more prone to substance abuse.
Really, hit the vodka.
Well, yeah, hit the vodka, I guess. If they like
I know
vodka.
some men who are divorced, and they hit the vodka.
Yeah, of course.
Something
yeah.
about that,
yeah.
At least briefly, if not for
it's
a long time.
It's a coping strategy often, self-medication.
So if you're living common law, is it the same thing? Or is it, do you have to be married?
The studies that I was looking at, one by a fellow called Gallipoli, who is a assistant professor in economics at UBC, did the study and showing the trend of men and what they look for in a spouse, right from young adulthood right up to old age. But it's interesting, all the studies I've read talk about marriage, and I'm wondering if they're including in there functional marriages such as common law marriages. One of the things I've found, and I treat common law marriages, functional marriages the same as I do with official marriages. One of the things I found is that marriage actually has some psychological benefits where the community gathers and they recognize the relationship. And there seems to be a little bit more staying power in those relationships.
Someone's on my team. If all goes awry, I lose my job, thank heavens my husband's working or my wife's working.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because young men tend to find wives who will, because they haven't got many financial assets or human capital, they'll tend to find wives who, if they lose their job, they can work. It's like an insurance policy, as the study says. When men reach around 50, then they want to renegotiate the relationship. They have more financial power. As men age and get into old age and more health issues start to crop up, again, they cling to their wives because it's like an insurance for them to look after them in old age.
Does it matter if it's a first marriage, a second marriage, a third marriage, a fourth marriage?
First marriages, women tend to be more depressed than men. I don't know why that is. But
well, don't ask me.
I think oftentimes second marriages, they have a tendency to break down faster than first. But second marriages are often come about as a result of reevaluating where they're going. They're looking for different things in life, and they have a better shot, I think, of making a more substantial relationship.
Well, you have to practice sometimes.
That's true. That's true. If you deal with the inner stuff that got you together in the first place and make sure you don't repeat that, otherwise you'll keep choosing Fred over and over and over again.
And that fairy tale we grew up with, someday your prince will come and you'll live happily ever after and all be perfect, and you do the real thing and reality hits. Yeah,
the prince is not always a prince or a princess.
And the princess is not always a princess, and you have to work things out.
Yeah, you do.
And compromise.
Yeah, you have to negotiate.
And adore each other somehow.
Yes, you do, yeah. One of the greatest threats to a marriage is contempt. And so when a couple gets to the place where one or both have contempt for each other, it spells disaster.
Really? Yeah. I was watching Bridget Jones for, I don't know, the umpteenth time the other night, and he said to her, Bridget, you're a character, in essence, but I love you just the way you are.
Sure.
I love your idiosyncrasies. I think you're swell.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love who you are.
That's the whole issue. If couples come from a different background, a different value system, a different worldview, and you have to come to a place where this is the person that I am with. Now I'm going to work out why I'm with him, and I want to stay with him or her.
What's going on when you're in a relationship and you're extremely lonely? You are married. You have a him or a her, and you're lonely and
there are a lot more marriages
alone.
There are a lot more marriages than you think that are like that. And I really think it's a lack of connection with the couple. Couples who spend time together, who share each other's journeys and stories every day and their life. Couples who really know each other tend to be less lonely. Couples who are isolated, who don't share, are not vulnerable, tend to go within themselves and become lonely.
Sure.
It's interesting that loneliness in one study is quite infectious. So that women are more prone to passing on infectious loneliness and receiving it than males are.
What does that mean?
Well, in this one study that was done by Harvard and Chicago and San Diego universities, they found that there are 3 degrees of loneliness, like 3 degrees of separation. And so if you have a personal friend, and it's usually friends, not siblings or spouses, they don't make you lonely, but friends or next door neighbors, if you know them personally, you are 52% at a greater risk of being lonely yourself. It infects you. If you know have a friend who knows somebody who's very lonely, you have a 25% chance of being infected by that. And it even goes to the 3rd degree of separation. If you know somebody who knows somebody who knows someone who's lonely, you have a 15% chance.
So it's catching?
It's catching.
It's a virus?
It's a virus, yes.
A lonely virus?
A lonely virus.
How do you help people get comfortable with being alone? And many of us have said to one another, you have to learn to live alone. If you've been in a marriage and you've been coupled, or you've been with your family, and now you're alone, you're single. How do you learn to embrace that if it doesn't seem to be your thing?
Well, you've actually touched on the difference in words. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Of course.
And lonely is a psychological, emotional condition. Like you say, you can be in a marriage and you're not alone, but you're lonely.
You're lonely.
I believe that everybody has to experience aloneness at some time. It's interesting that in the Amish Mennonites, their young men need to go off, I don't know about the women, but just the young men. They're raised in this highly structured religious environment. They need to go out for at least 1 year and experience what it's like to be on their own, and then they can come back, and it's a true conversion.
But some people would just like somebody on the other end of their teeter-totter, someone to run it by, of the opposite sex. They have lots of, I have friends who have lots of girlfriends and a successful social life, all of that. And without a man, these are women, without a man, they're lonely. Or they think, I don't know, they think they are.
I think being alone is not a natural condition. We are a gregarious people. We are, the universe makes us to be with others, just like wolves need to be with packs. It's part of our being human. But I truly believe that in order to experience intimacy, one needs to experience being alone and finding one's own resources. So women or men who just run from relationship to relationship and can't stand their own selves in an aloneness are people who tend to be thwarted in their growth.
Right. Well, you've achieved it when you can stay home on a Saturday night, watch a little hockey, make your own dinner, have a glass of wine, and not want anyone to call.
Sure, yeah. Sometimes that's survival.
I know, but totally embracing being alone and enjoying your own company is really what it is.
That's right.
But to get there often is not easy.
No, it's not. In marriage, you are coming from within your own resources, and the one study referred to it as human capital. Your set of experiences. What have you got to bring to the table in this marriage? If what you have to bring to the table is neediness and insecurity, and you just need somebody to cling to, that's not healthy.
What do you make of couples who are joined at the hip? They phone each other 10 times a day. They don't move without one another. But they look on the outside like truly happy.
I'd be interested in knowing what their sex life is like.
Really?
Too much intimacy kills passion. And, so I mean, as I've said before in your show, there are these 2 drives. One is companionship, the other is variety. When one goes up, the other goes down. So there's always these 2 wild horses you're holding in tandem, and you don't want to get one or the other out of control. So in fact, individuals who are off on their own, seeking variety, will have less companionship.
Sure.
And people who have a deeper relationship and strive for intimacy will have less variety. Variety is the key, the elixir to a sexual life.
My friend the other day said, I want someone who gets me.
Sure.
who just gets me. It's kind of back to the Bridget Jones thing. I want
Yeah.
someone who thinks I'm just swell.
Sure.
Warts and all.
Well, there's a difference between accepting you warts and all and someone who gets you. It takes time to get somebody. We don't have crystal balls. We can't guess what our partner's saying or thinking. So for someone to say, you should know me by now, you should know that, no, you need to state your need up front and let your partner know this is what I need. If he or she still doesn't get it, then
Sure.
harsher means.
So it's not about you, it's
heavier
about
means.
me. I need more quiet time than you do, or I need to go out on Friday night with the girls.
Yep.
Or I don't want to have to call you to ask permission if I need to make a move.
Absolutely.
Whatever that is, whatever
Yeah.
whatever works
Well,
for you.
as
Or
I
I
already-
want you home on a Friday night, or the
Yeah.
marriage is over.
Oh dear,
Is that too strict?
That's pretty strict. But it's what a partner works out. As I always say, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And so it's moving from the independence of adolescence, as I was saying a little earlier, to the interdependence of adulthood. You negotiate.
Okay, so I like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
You get what you negotiate.
That's right.
And we should all watch The 4 Pillars of a Passionate Marriage, keeping passion alive in long-term relationships.
That was a lecture I gave to parole officers.
Well, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Fanny.
Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Dr. David McKenzie, our resident couples counselor and sex therapist. And tomorrow, a supersized steel sculpture of Lenin and Mao in Richmond is stirring up controversy. The president of the Vancouver Biennale tells us who the Beijing artists are and what their message really is. And an expert on terrorism gives us his take on airport security, scanners, Nexus, and all that it takes to keep us safe, or is it? And he studies why people are afraid to live their dreams. Raphael Kushner, a screenwriter, filmmaker, and a leading voice in emotional connection, gives us some lessons on how to surf your inner sea. And he talks about the one thing he says is holding you back. Thanks for watching Studio 4. Lots more on Shaw TV, only on Shaw TV.